All right, our top focus on the show this morning. Russian President Vladimir Putin has suggested that Ukraine could be placed under a form of temporary administration to allow for new elections.
And the signature of key accords with the aim of reaching a settlement.
In principle, of course, it would be possible under the auspices of the UN, with the United States, even with European countries, and of course with our partners and friends, to discuss the possibility of introducing temporary administration in Ukraine. For what? In order to hold democratic elections, in order to bring to power a viable government that enjoys the people's trust, and then begin negotiations with it on a peace treaty, sign legitimate documents.
Now, Putin also said that Russia was moving gradually but confidently towards the achievement of its goals in more than 3-year-old conflict in Ukraine.
Well, he said that he believed United States President Donald Trump, who has moved to improve ties with Moscow and work towards a settlement, sincerely wanted peace in Ukraine.
On the other hand, European countries agreed at a summit in Paris to ramp up rather than lift sanctions on Russia over its war against Ukraine, as Britain and France began sketching out plans to send a reassurance force after any peace.
Today, these reassurance forces are a French-British proposition. It has been agreed by Great Britain and France, it is desired by Ukraine, and it has also been agreed by several member states that have signaled their desire to join in. There is no unanimity on it today, that is known, but we do not need unanimity to do this.
For Ukraine, to make sure Ukraine is in the strongest possible position, both now and in further negotiations. Second, complete clarity that now is not the time for lifting of sanctions. Quite the contrary, what we discussed is how we can increase sanctions to support the US initiative to bring Russia to the table through further pressure from this group of countries.
Well, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Russia is not interested in real peace, and lifting sanctions against Moscow at this time would be a serious mistake.
What is important to us is that stopping sanctions at this time would be a serious mistake. The sanctions must be continued. They will also have to be developed further, and Europe and the US must take a clear stand together so that we can continue to use this opportunity to support Ukraine.
Now, the meeting also underlined differences within the coalition of the willing, with not all states signing on to the French-British plans to deploy troops post-war.
Well, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said she hoped that the United States will be involved in the next European meeting on Ukraine, and repeated Rome's refusal to send troops to defend any peace deal.
Meanwhile, the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said Europe needs to find a way to have a common policy towards Russia.
Well, even if Hungary doesn't agree with it.
For example, to extend sanctions against Russia, and we probably can't count on Budapest here. You know the whole story by now. So, among other things, I raised the need to look for ways, methods, that will allow for a common European policy towards Russia, even if Hungary will not be interested in it.
Now, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the coalition has grown stronger following the summit. But she said investing in both Ukraine and Europe's defense capabilities was essential.
This means, for example, joint procurement with Ukraine in the European Union, but also in the Ukrainian defense industry. It's strengthening the defense industrial base of Ukraine. And of course, we need also a credible deterrence and defense posture in the European Union. And thus we have to develop our own defense industrial base too.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the US is constantly changing the terms of the proposed minerals deal with Ukraine, but added that he did not want Washington to think that Kiev was against the deal. Well, Zelensky said that he wants the US to help Ukraine be in a strong position for negotiations with Russia.
А нам це потрібно, щоб Америка
We need the US to be stronger regarding Russia. We want the president of the US to be stronger regarding the owner of the Kremlin. What we want from the US, what I need from President Trump, I have told him since the first day of our talks. It is important for me that Ukraine is in a strong position during negotiations.
Для мене важливо, щоб Україна була в сильній позиції на цих перемовинах.